If you've been watching my content for any amount of time, you probably know by now that I like dabbing, and I like electronic concentrate devices that do the whole process for you. Torching is so last year. Like we're still breaking out the blowtorch because we want to do dabs. Nah, I don't do it anymore. I mean, I do sometimes, but for the most part, I like button push dabs. And a lot of the devices that I've tested are just knockoffs of the Puffco, right? They're knockoffs of the Peak. They're cone shaped and they have an atomizer on the side and you can pull the glass off and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of things out there that look like the Peak, but once you hit them, you're like, you know what? It wasn't close. The hit wasn't close. Well, Puffco also makes another product that I've been waiting for people to rip off just so I could try the devices out and see how did you do with this? How did you do with this concept? And if you haven't seen the Proxy by now, it's one of the more interesting devices on the market because look, it's a dry pipe for concentrate. This is your battery. This is your atomizer. This does all your dabbing. And there's a lot of different glass that you can put this in to increase your experience, enhance your experience. I actually like the simplicity of the default setting, right? I don't even like to swap out the cap because I can just do a nice simple dab with the Proxy. But I've been waiting for knockoffs of this, right? I've been waiting for knockoffs of this just to see what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Because some of the Peak knockoffs that I've seen are actually insane. But I've been waiting for Proxy knockoffs, and look, I got a couple here today to show you, and they are actually wild. And these are two by a brand called JCVAP. I actually have a Cewpins code over there. They have a variety of different things over there, and you can end up using the Cewpins code on that to save. But we got their Pobies. I got the Pobie L and the Pobie S, and you can tell that the L is a little bit bigger here, maybe indicates the difference between the two. Look, this is the small one and this is the large one. But I have been waiting to see Proxy knockoffs for a while, right? I have a few others I might make videos on, but these might be some of the better ones. Better performance-wise, but let's just take a look at the L here. Let's just take a look at the L because this thing is a monster. Look, I'm gonna show you in the box here. This isn't quite an unboxing. I've been using this for a little while now. This thing is a monster. This thing is a huge. This thing, if you put it right next to the Proxy, this thing is the bigger brother of the bigger brother of the bigger brother of the Proxy. This thing is monstrous. Now, the other one I got is similar. It's just smaller. I imagine the major difference is the battery life. Now, here's the Pobie S right here, just right next door. These things, they look weird. I was saying this on my Twitch stream the other day. These look like, remember that movie, A Kid in King Arthur's Court, where this kid from like the 90s or whatever gets teleported back to medieval times, and he's like friends with the blacksmith, and he's like, hey man, I need you to make me some rollerblades, and like a medieval blacksmith makes the dude rollerblades out of like wood and stuff. Well, shortly after that, the kid asked the blacksmith to make some Proxies, and this is what he came up with. Like, bro, these look wild. These are monstrous, right? So the main thing about the Proxy is that it has a very specific fitting, and it encouraged a lot of glass blowers to make pieces for it. I think these fit, right? Let me check. The S, I think, fits. Yeah, the Proxy fits in the glass here. This glass, it's not my favorite. If you can see, the air hole here is very tight versus the Proxy. You get much more. Maybe I should show you side by side. You get much more airflow, which ends up being a better hit. This one's a little bit too tight. I do like a tighter airflow with a concentrate device, but this might be a little bit too tight. But the Proxy fits in there, and you know, vice versa. What do we got here? I'm afraid to handle it. Is it not? Does it not fit? So the large one definitely doesn't fit, but the small one doesn't fit. The metal piece is hitting. Is this real? Is it? I just assumed that it fit. Did I never try this until now? So you're not going to be able to use this with any of your Proxy glass. I don't think. Let me find one more piece and try. Okay. It kind of fits in a couple of things, but it doesn't like wedge in and create a seal like you would want, which is weird because the Proxy does fit in their glass and it does wedge and create a seal. I can't do this the other way around, right? It doesn't wedge in as snugly. So look, you might be able to use this with some of your other Proxy glass, but if you got nice expensive glass for your Proxy, get a Proxy. What are you doing? This thing has got like a metal body. This thing might accidentally break your glass. This thing is smooth, right? This thing it feels like a classier, nicer version. This has some, you know, around the edges. It's soft because it's silicone. This is just metal, and it feels like I'm gonna break something with this. But look, maybe you don't have any proxy glass. Maybe you're not trying to share any glass. You just want a dry pipe. I gotta say, this is pretty cool, right? They did include LEDs on this. It does light up. You have the dome on the top. Let me see if I can turn this one on. I think you hold the power button down. Yeah. They work pretty similarly, and I think the atomizers on them are a similar size, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull the tops off. There's too many parts here. It's not as clean. It's not as nice as the Proxy in a handling aspect. So we've got the dishes look the same size. Where you actually put your concentrate, it looks the same size. I think the only difference is the battery and the glass. This one has a larger, longer battery. The hits on these, I've hit them on my Twitch stream. They're not bad, right? They're not bad. But again, like the cool thing about the Proxy is it feels like a sophisticated device. This feels like a clunky, I got it from the dollar store, the Harbor Freight version of it. Like, I don't know if there's any secret modes or any special modes like they have on the Proxy, because a lot of that stuff isn't in the manual, and you can find it out just by doing some research or hearing via word of mouth. But I don't know if there's anything super fancy about these. But one thing that I do like is you can change the session time on here. There's a 60-second, a 75-second, and a 90-second option, I believe, which I think that is very crucial, just as important for temperature control, I think, is time control. Because the best dabs, you nailed the time and the temperature. You didn't just nail the temperature and 20 seconds later you had the best dab, because you might have needed to run it longer than that. So the temperature control on that is cool, but oh my God, these things are hideous. It's metal and glass. It feels clunky. Now I'm gonna do a quick demonstration on the hit, but I think we're gonna try to cut it super short and see if that gets through the auto moderation. I'm gonna post like a full version of the rips, or a full video of the rips, maybe on like my Twitter or something, somewhere where it'll stay and they won't ding me for it. So if you want to see the uncut version of the rips, I think just the length of the rips and the robots being able to see the smoke and the vapor in the air gets me dinged almost every time. All right, the temp settings, it says 480 on blue, 500 on green, 515 on yellow, 525 on red, 545 on purple, 580 on white. Oh, it has several settings. All right, so we got the Poby L on 500 here. I'm just gonna give it a quick little rip, see how it works out. Don't forget to sip before you rip. You got a little LED dome here. You can see the vapor dance around. We're not gonna really have too much to show because, like I said, we're gonna cut this. It feels so clunky. The cap is wiggling around. I popped the joystick in. The glass is moving. It's moving inside the actual pipe base. Woo! So this feels janky is like the best word that I can come up with. It's all the parts are moving around. Nothing's locked into place. It doesn't feel like I'm hitting a classy piece like when I'm hitting the Proxy. This feels classy. It looks good. It feels good. It's smaller. It doesn't feel clunky, clanky in my hand. This is wild. It doesn't have near the level of sophistication as far as it feels, as far as it looks. But what I will say, and this might be the deciding factor for some people, but hear me out. This has more temperature settings. I think you can go a higher temperature than the Proxy. It has a larger chamber than the Proxy. This actually hits harder than the Proxy. But I don't think anybody's getting the Proxy because it's the hardest hitter. I don't hit my Proxy because I want the hardest hit. I hit my Proxy because I want a nice, clean, easy, one-handed dab. I don't even use the joystick on here. I just use the regular default cap, so I could just pull on it and not have to worry about doing anything. So I've been telling people that ask me between the Peak and the Proxy, if you want the biggest, best hits, go for the Peak. If you want something cool, maybe get this after you get the Peak. It really is cool. There's a lot of cool glass to go with it, but the Proxy wouldn't be a good main e-rig for me, so I try not to tell people like that's the one you're gonna want, because both the Peak Pro, the new Peak, they have a way better battery life, and for some people that's the deciding factor: how many hits you can do, how long can you go before recharging. Because you can always get a nicer e-rig and just do smaller hits on it, but if you have something that can only do small hits or smaller hits, and you're like, nah, I need to take it to the next level, and your device can't, what are you gonna do? But either way, if you want to check out the Poby, they're on the JCVAP. I'm sure I got a Cewpins code over there. I'll put a link to an article about it in the description. But I gotta say, like, these feel janky. But the hits on it were nice and big. Either way, have a lit day, my dudes.